Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome. I know the weather is a little bit, and I must confess that we were going to share two cases of interest. One of them is the family experience in Gardner, Colorado, a 2025 case, and we were also going to share a cattle mutilation that occurred in 2024 up in Delta, Colorado. But my wife downloaded the case
It's all my fault.
From the cloud, and I can't deal with that technology. So
I'm very durable.
So let me introduce myself. My name is Seth Feinstein, and I'm the Colorado State Director for MUFON. Okay.
He's other things too. He is also the head of the CMS coordinators for MUFON, which means that whenever a case comes in at headquarters and it has to be reviewed ahead of time and checked for certain things before releasing it to the state, he heads the team that does that. And he also takes his week of doing that periodically. So he's pretty busy.
And so it was about 6 or 7 years ago. We were just regular working people. Now we're retired. We went to the boot camp in Arizona and had a great time, except for when my wife went off into the desert at night with a fluorescent flashlight looking for scorpions.
He always worries about me.
She was gone for an hour and a half.
I swear it was only like 15 minutes.
It was an hour and a half. So we had some police officers as part of the training, and I solicited them to go out in the desert with me to find her.
Now, there is a possibility that we're both telling the truth and that I had missing time. It's possible, but I was with another woman, and I wanted to see a scorpion light up.
Right.
Because I'd never seen that.
So let me take a few risks here. How many of you are members of MUFON International? Okay.
You need to join.
How many of you are members of Colorado MUFON? Oh, that's a lot here, but that's probably about
for being here,
1/3 of the people who are here who are members of Is anybody here from the board of MUFON International?
Stand up. Come on, Sandy, stand up.
Sandy's on the board of MUFON International.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
Okay.
So Anniversary and I, we serve locally, but we also serve at higher levels of MUFON. We, as she said, she's on the CMS
I'll tell
team.
you what I do. I can tell it better than him. Okay. First off, I want everybody to know that when I decided to become a field investigator for MUFON, my husband said, I don't think I want to do that. And I said, I don't care, I'm doing it. And then he said, well, then I'm doing it too. And now he really, really loves it. It is a very worthwhile organization. It's all volunteer. And we spend a lot of time doing it, but we get a lot out of it. And the fortunate thing is that we're retired, which means we have lots of time to be able to devote to it and do it right. Now, I am recently, maybe 8 months ago, I volunteered to be the director of the case assistance group. And what that means is that if there is a state within the United States that doesn't have a state director, I become that acting state director, and I do all the work that that state director would do. And I currently have 8 states. Now, on top of that, I have a team that if there are states that are behind in their workload and they need help with their cases, I assign those cases, I review and I approve those cases to try to catch everybody up. So there's lots of work. Plus, I'm also on the CMS coordinator team, so I take my week of reviewing the cases that come into headquarters. So I think, and I'm on the Experiencer Resource team. I almost forgot.
Explain it.
Now, the Experiencer Resource Team is a team of people who, if a person has a contact experience, positive or negative, and they need to talk to somebody, they need to report it, get it out there so that other people know what's happening, or just to have a non-judgmental ear to listen to what's been going on with them and provide them with help if they want it. That is what the Experiencer Resource Team does. And we have a head of the resource team whose name is George Medich, absolutely wonderful, caring human being. And Seth, you know his history. He used to be a baseball player. What team was he on?
He was called Doc Medich. He is an MD, a surgeon, and he was a major league pitcher back in the early 70s. And I asked him whether it was easier to work for Billy Martin or for MUFON. And he said, well, Billy Martin was an alcoholic.
Oh, he was difficult. But George is a very humble and wonderful and caring man. So anybody that gets an opportunity, if they're interested in working with experiencers, to join the Experiencer Resource Team, you should take it, okay? Because we're always looking for caring people to be there for people that are in need. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation.
After I say one more thing.
All right.
So
Can you
this
see what
is
I
the way
live
it
with?
goes. We both have exactly the same interest. We have an art studio in our home. We both do art. We have a blessed life in that we like the same things, and we do a lot of things together. It's really a good life for us. So in MUFON, you pretty much can write your own career, but it all starts with being a field investigator. And the field investigating part is the most rewarding part. For me, the most rewarding part is photo analysis. I love doing, hi Katie. I love doing photo analysis. I've done probably about 440 cases, both for MUFON and other people in our industry in the last 4.5 years or so. And that's my passion. And I'm at the point right now when I go home, there's probably about 40 images or films I have to analyze when we get home for probably about 8 or so different cases. Again, both for MUFON and for out of MUFON. And that's what I really love to do. The other way I serve is I'm the Northwest Regional Director. So all the states in the Northwest are, I work with all the states in the Northwest, and we have a monthly meeting, and it's really been very positive. I'd say the Northwest state leadership is probably the most positive and forward-thinking group of state directors and chief investigators and assistant state directors we have in MUFON. So I love doing that too. I wish there was something I didn't love so I could cut down all the things I'm doing. You're on.
So for people that say they don't have a life, we have a life. And our life's name is MUFON, okay? So I'm going to start with this case. I'm going to try to remember it all off the top of my head. Okay, this is an Experiencer Resource Team case. It is case number 136416. I actually worked the field investigator side of the case. With an experiencer case, there's two sides. One side is given to a field investigator to work the actual sighting part, if there is a sighting of a UFO or a non-human intelligence. And I worked that part. And somebody did work the ERT part, but I know all about this case. So I'm going to figure out what I'm doing here. Oh, and my name is Anniversary. I don't know if I told you that or not. I'm Anniversary Feinstein. So thank you very much for being here. Now, the witness for this particular case, or the experiencer, one of a family of experiencers, he's 68 years old now. His blood type, we normally ask the blood type, is O positive. He started out to be a priest. He was studying to be a priest. And then he decided he wanted to study science. He became a veterinarian. So that kind of gives you a feel of his personality. Now, he did tell me that even though he has a strong belief in God, he also believes in the probability of other life forms. And amazingly enough, the case that his experience was in 1977. Like so many people who have experiences, he didn't share it because his family was conflicted over it, even though some of the family members were present. He came from a large family of, I think, 13 kids. And some of them get very upset if it's mentioned, and some of them want to talk a little bit about it. So because of ridicule, because of the career that he had, he's now retired. He never talked about it. And then he finally decided to come forward, and I'm glad that he did. Now, in 1977, during college break, he and a brother came to Gardner, Colorado. Now, I don't know if you know where that is. It is northwest of, why can't I think of the name? No, it's not. It's not. It's south of Colorado Springs, and it is, yes, northwest of Walsenburg. Okay. So he had gone to spend time during his college break with a brother who lived up in Gardner, Colorado, and other family members. It was his brother that came with him, and his brother who lived in Gardner, Colorado, and his wife, and him. Now, he went up there. They were having a great time. The last night that they were together, they'd had dinner. And then after dinner, he was sitting on the couch, and he was looking out the southeast window at Bald Mountain. All of a sudden, he saw a big light. He said the light was not as large as the moon, but it was a good size. And he was looking at it, trying to figure out what it was, and all of a sudden it started moving west. When it started moving west, he yelled out to his siblings, "Oh my God, look at that light, what is that?" And they all came over to the window, they were looking at it, and then they all ran outside. Now, keep in mind that this is Colorado. They're in a little town that's got a population of around 100 people. The elevation is just under 7,000 feet above sea level. And they went out, none of them had a coat on. They were so excited about what they were looking at. But when they got outside, they realized that there wasn't just that one. There was what looked like 3 main stars forming a triangle, and in that triangle, dropping down, were other stars. They were dropping down, they were making a right angle, and I think they were heading south. Now, they're watching all of this, and I think they said collectively that there were over 100 stars that were moving through the sky, that were dropping down out of nowhere through this triangle, and then just shooting off. Now, they'd never seen anything like that, so they watched it for quite a long time, which I would too. Okay, now, after a point in time, now I want to explain the area. They were out in front of the house. It's a fairly rural area. It is off of a country road that is dirt and rocks, really bumpy and uneven. And out in front of the house, off on the left-hand side, right near the road, there's a shed. And the road comes from the north to the south, and it kind of curves out in an S-curve to go around this shed that's in the front. and they see what they think is a car coming down the road. And they said that the headlights on this thing looked about as large as basketballs. But they said that what was weird about it was that where a car's headlights will hurt your eyes when you're trying to look at them, they said these lights did not hurt their eyes. So this, what they think is a car, is coming down the road, and it comes right by them, and it, instead of going around the S-curve to go around the side, the outside on the road of the shed, it comes onto the ground, onto the front of the property, nearest them. And as it's right there, they realize it isn't a car at all, that it's something else. They don't know what it is, some type of a unidentified object, but it's right along the ground. And they said that they knew, too, it wasn't a car because where normally a car on a country road will make a lot of noise, okay, as it's hitting the rocks and all of that stuff, it was moving perfectly smooth, and there was absolutely no sound associated with it. As it came by, they could see two silhouettes inside of the vehicle, and they said that the vehicle had like a green mist inside of it, but they could still see the outlines of the beings in the vehicle. Now, you would think that if that happened to you when you were standing out in the road and you realized, oh my God, that's a UFO, wouldn't you run inside? None of them ran inside. They all just stood there until they watched it go down the road, and then it was partially obscured by some bushes along the road, and then they watched it shoot up into the sky and head south. At that point, they're still standing there. And then they look back up into the sky, and they continue looking. Now, as they're looking, they're seeing more and more of these objects in the sky. And the objects are, I mean, they're not just coming out of the center of this triangle anymore. They're in every direction, north, south, east, west. And so they're kind of surrounded by all of these lights dropping down and heading south, all of them, like at a right angle. So they're watching them, and then they notice that one of the objects had a cone of light. Well, it looked solid coming out of the bottom of it, almost like a spotlight, but it didn't come all the way to the ground, and it was green. It was green looking. It was kind of translucent. So they're watching that, and that's kind of like at a distance, and that's cool. And then they start seeing some of the objects doing the same thing, and that's cool too. They're fine with that. But then things get a little unnerving because they start to come in closer. And as they're getting closer, they join in a circle, they're holding each other's hands, and one of the brothers says, if they take any of us, they're taking all of us, okay? But they're holding hands, and they're terrified at this point. But of course, they don't run in the house. How come? They still don't run into the house, and the house is right there. But they're standing there. Doesn't make any sense. Now, one of the ships to the south, one of these objects comes in closer. So it's around 200 yards away, around 200 feet up. And as they're watching it, it brightens up, and it extends light projections out of the bottom, which appear to be like a tripod or legs for landing. It extends that cone of light, and they're sure it's going to land, okay? But then again, the light never hits the ground. It comes so far down, like a column of solid light with a flat bottom, and that's where it stays. Well, at that point, as they're watching it, it dims, it the lights of it dim, the cone goes back up, the legs retract, and it shoots south. So they're thinking, okay, well, we're all right now. So then they go inside. At that point, they go into the house, and they decide that we're going to go into different parts of the house, and they're all going to write down what they saw, what they experienced. Now, when they went into the house, they realized, which was really weird, that 3 hours had passed. And also, not only had 3 hours passed, but remember, they were out there without their coats in the wintertime at 7,000 feet above sea level at night, and none of them got cold. They were all comfortable the whole time. And I do want to say this from my own personal knowledge, that that's pretty common with a contact experience, where you have total silence, you have no wind, and everything is totally comfortable. You know, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now, so they're all inside, they're writing down sketches of what they saw, they're writing down their personal experiences. Now, there's one of the brothers that was running late with his wife, and they were coming up the hill. They were coming up from Walsenburg, and they're coming up that same road that that object went down. And the brother comes bursting into the house, and he's telling them, you're not going to believe what happened. This road did not have, like, shoulders on it. It was a fairly narrow road. So if you were driving up it, unless somebody was willing to back off somewhere, you know, back up so somebody could pass, you weren't going to avoid that other vehicle. Well, his brother looks up and he sees what he thinks is a semi on the road. It's this big bright light, and he's like thinking, oh my God, you know, there's a semi coming down this road, but he'd never seen a semi on that road before, and he's thinking he's going to have a head-on collision. So he tells his family that when that semi came up to his vehicle and he thought that they were going to collide, that it lifted up into the air and that it went over his vehicle and continued heading south. Okay? And he said he didn't doubt his brother. He believed that if his brother said that it was the absolute truth. Now, I want to tell you something else. What happened was about 5 years after the event, that same brother contacted him, and he said to him, you know, I've been thinking about this for the last 5 years, and I'm really sorry. I probably should have told you this before, but I just have to get it off my chest. You know, when I told you that that semi lifted up and went over my vehicle? He said that wasn't the truth. He said what really happened was it went through my vehicle, and I watched it head south. And he says, I know it doesn't sound possible, but honestly, that's what happened. Now, the one brother that came with the brother from college, on college break, he was talking to a witness who wanted to remain unnamed. He was talking to him and told him, you know what? It seems really weird that, you know, we were outside for 3 hours. I mean, what the heck? You know, I think we may have been abducted. And he said to him, I think you need to see a clinical hypnotherapist. I think you need to find out if you got missing time. And the witness was really resistant to that. He didn't want to do that at all. But then he finally gave in. And about 4 years ago, he went ahead and went to a clinical hypnotherapist and had regression for missing time. And when he had the missing time regression, the hypnotherapist contacted the one brother and said to him, I want you to contact your brother. I want you to make sure he's okay, because after we had the session, he was so upset. I'm really concerned about him. Well, it turned out that the experiencer, the witness, that he actually was so disoriented and so confused after the session that he got lost trying to go home. And it took him forever to get there, but he did make it okay. And during the regression, interesting information came out. It came out that when they were in a circle, that after they said, if they're going to take one of us, they're going to take all of us. And I forgot to tell you, too, that when the thing got really close and it looked like it was going to land, one of the other brothers yelled out, "Hit the ground," because they were sure they were goners. So anyway, it turned out that when the one brother said, if you're going to take one of us, you're going to take all of us, that brother... well, what happened was there was a being that came up from outside of the circle, okay? Came up behind the witness, took his hand, and pulled him around about 20 yards away from the circle of his family. And when he got him that distance away, then he picked him up, and this is best I could do for a rendition of the being. The being was shorter than him. He was 5'8", the witness, but this being was shorter than him, much stockier and bigger, and he picked him up like a baby in his arms and led him over to below that craft, and they lifted up into the ground into this cone of light. And he said the bottom of the object reminded him of Chaco Canyon, the different designs. He said that it was around 10 to 15 feet in diameter, and that there was a inner circle that was around 6 feet in diameter. And this guy, afraid of heights. But as he was lifting up, he had absolutely no fear at all, and he was looking down at the circle of his family in the place where he'd been standing, even though he's deathly afraid of heights. And he said that when he saw the bottom of the craft, that he arched his back and he lifted his hands up because he was certain he was going to get squished into this thing. And they went right through the floor of the object. And you can see here a picture of the bottom of the craft and his sketch of what the craft looked like. Now, when they got inside the craft was a lot larger than what the outside of the craft was. He said it was enormous, and that when they got into the craft, that the hairy being that he thought at first was blurry, but then he realized it was fur, took him over to a soft table and laid him down. And then from another part of the room, two beings came in that looked like this. They were tall and skinny. They had skin like a dolphin's skin. They had a mottled stripe pattern that was like in shades of brown. They had a little bump for a nose with two little holes. They had eyes that glowed blue-green. They had no mouth. They had no ears. And I think I said before, the head was like a football on end. That was the shape. But one of them walked over, turned on the light above the table he was laying on, and then proceeded to reach into his sternum with one of his hands. And he said that when the one reached into his chest, that he didn't feel anything. And then when the hand was taken out, that there was no mark. And then he said after that, without touching him, the two beings managed to open up his chest altogether, and he could look down and he could see his internal organs. And after a while, they closed him up. They talked. They turned out the light. They talked amongst themselves and amongst the furry being. And he said it was weird because they had no mouths, but he said he could still hear them speaking, and it sounded like they were speaking a foreign language that he could not understand. So he said one of the beings actually reached out and he held his hand, and it was very comforting. And the being basically told him, it's okay, you're going to be fine. Now, after that, they left the room. Still, no fear. And the furry being came over, picked him up, cradled him in his arms again like a baby, and took him down again to the ground. And when they hit the ground, the second brother was saying, "Hit the ground," okay? And he said that the event happened in what felt like a split second, even though he knew that he had missing time. And after that, there were military that came to the area that were going to different houses because they knew something had happened. A mile down the road, another brother said that they had communes in the area and that they had a lot of times where they were seeing lights. And the reason why I decided to pick this case is because it's not far from here. And I think it was an absolutely fascinating case, and I think that it's really important when somebody has an experience, just because you haven't had it does not invalidate it in any way. Okay. Now, something to consider. This entire event fits a scenario of an ET race making a scientific study visit to a planet, sending out hundreds of crafts on a single night to study humans and perhaps other inhabitants. And that's recorded in the book Extraterrestrial Odyssey, the 4th edition, that some ETs can control individual synapses in their brain, and they can make you experience anything they wish. The ETs that the witness in this case encountered were able to instantly calm and relax him so that he was moved to grasp one of the ET's hands, actually in friendship. And this is the conclusion of the case. It was determined to be an unknown aerial vehicle, and the ERT side was substantial evidence. And I want to thank you very much for your attention and your time. And I want to say that the picture of the craft was a sketch from that actual witness or experiencer, and that the others, to the best of my ability, were AI generated. And I really don't know what I'm doing, so I hope that they help to tell the story.
You did great.
Thank you.
That was great. So let me get you a little up to date with what's happening with MUFON. So MUFON International is a 501c3 and dedicated to the advancement of humanities through scientific investigation. Colorado MUFON is a 501c3, also a charitable nonprofit organization. So we both count on donations and memberships to do all the things that we do. So the one thing we didn't tell you about ourselves is we're part of a team that came up recently to help change the culture at MUFON. We're part of a team that is redesigning the antiquated pearl coding CMS system. So it's a short time off, but for all the investigators who are here who know how the system had some handicaps, this all is going to be changing very soon. The other thing we're doing is we're upgrading the scientific investigation and changing the investigation process. It's really not official. I can't say too much about it at this point, but I will tell you there's going to be a scoring system to determine the level of credibility of every case out there. And we're going to, we reinvented the MUFON, the shape chart has been revised, and we're updating and changing the dispositions. And we're automating a lot of things that in the past had to be manually done. Anniversary wants to talk.
Yeah, I want to say something really quick because I know we're over our time and we don't want to take time away from anybody else. But I did want to say if anybody's interested in becoming a field investigator, anybody can do it. We will teach you anything and everything you need to know. And all you need to do is go to MUFON.com to get that information or to report an experience or a sighting. And thank you all so much for being here.
I would like to say one more thing. And then after I speak, she'll probably have something else to say. But I'd really like to thank Carrie and KFO and the Snippy Conference for supporting Colorado MUFON. And I commit our support and marketing to help you in the future with what you do. So thank you very much for being so kind to our members.
Now I'll take the mic from you straight. Now you can't talk, right? Okay, so we're doing the speaker meet and greet now. And so if you're a speaker, you're to be sitting on this row of chairs on the inside, which Robert's sitting on the correct chair, for example. See that? And if you're not a speaker, you're in those seats. Sandy, you would want to leave those seats. And then if you want, you can just walk by, say hi to the speakers, and after they sit down for a bit, it might get a little musty. We can get up and walk around and stuff too. We don't have to just sit there if you're a speaker. You need to move. Okay, thank you.